All right, folks. So this should be a quick one. Um, about being realistic, being rational. I don't know. I'll give you. We do this all the time because to some degree we only learn through our mistakes or trial and error. Not really mistakes, but we learn. And I've mentioned something that I've done things in my life where, in hindsight, it was just an absolutely bad move. Like about 2 years ago, I rented a house for my staff. Who worked for had a I have a shop at a retail store, and my staff was like maybe nine people from villages, and so I helped them get the lease. I mean, they were paying for it, but and it was such a bad idea. In hindsight, it was such a bad idea, and it came back to bite me. And I don't know why I felt the necessity of going out of my way to rent a house for them when they could have made their own plan. I always just feel so indebted to them because they're my staff. And, maybe I am. Maybe I was Mr. Nice Guy. But maybe I was too nice, right? Maybe I wasn't thinking of myself and being realistic. Maybe there was a slight codependency there. Maybe it was like, well, if I help you out here, then maybe you'll appreciate me. I don't know if that's so true, but there could be that as well. There could be that as well. And so it came back to bite me, as many things do. You bought a second-hand car. Okay, sometimes you don't. That there are things that in hindsight you didn't know at the time, but that I don't know. You got a tattoo that you like. A few days later you completely regretted, and you sort of say, "Well, what was I thinking?" Or you said to yourself about a week ago, "You know what? I really feel like I want to go and travel to Mexico or Canada or Hawaii, wherever you're based, whatever it is. I want to go in Kentucky. I want to do, I don't know. I want to start university. I want to learn how to, and some of it's reasonable, but some of it's like, absolute pie in the sky. My friend Marlene, I've spoken about her before. I think she's probably in her 60s by now, or late 50s, somewhere or other. And she's been abandoned, or she's also done it to herself on in the country on a farm. In sort of a rondavel, a sort of a mud hut at the top of a hill, and she wanted to escape the city, and so she's a hermit, but to her own demise. I mean, she doesn't have a car. She's not self-reliant. She's not, she can't get to town. But she's chased everybody away, right? There's much to be said about Marlene, but I gave her many opportunities when I was living on the farm, and she turned it down. I've tried to help her on so many angles to try and get her off the farm, even though she's wanted to, then she's turned it down. But then one day she comes to me and she says, no, she wants to go to Israel. She wants to make Aliyah. She's Jewish. She wants to make Aliyah. And the process that's involved, now, firstly, she just got a smartphone for the first time about 2 months ago. But she's only switched it on once. I try to bring her a computer. I try to help her, teach her how to use a laptop. She cursed at me, like, you're bringing all this stuff. I just want to have a simple life. I said, fine, okay. But, like, you're alone here. You've only got one radio station, that you can connect to. Like, you're interested. You can get ebooks. Want to buy her a Kindle. The Kindle's not complicated. But she's overwhelmed by it, and she hasn't got confidence, and she tries to keep her life simple. But on the one hand, she wants to go to Israel. Then she wants to go to Portugal. Then she wants to go to the Maldives. Wherever it is, completely unreasonable. Completely. She can't even get to town. She's so afraid of going into town. She gets people from the local village to go in and buy her groceries. She can't even manage to go into town. She gets overwhelmed, and I respect that. But what I'm saying is that she's so pie in the sky. Then I got to sit here and say, and try and help her out. She'll be like, can you phone the Aliyah department? Can you try and scan this and send it to them and post this to me, 60 pages. And I'm like, this is going nowhere. How many things I've gotten involved with it goes nowhere. Pie in the sky thinking. How many of us pie in the sky thinking? Right? Not being realistic. Not being authentic, not being honest with ourselves. Some of us feel bad. Some of us we're not authentic. We think, okay, I can handle a a job in a supermarket. I can do it. I don't want to feel weak about it. I want to feel strong and be like, but at the same time, it's not who you are. I can be a banker. I'm going to force myself. So, and I can work in, office, in a desk, office. No, you can't. You're somebody who likes to garden or whatever it is. Be realistic with who you are. I want to become a shaman. Well, maybe, you're not supposed to be a shaman or whatever it is. I want to be a guru, whatever it is. Okay, maybe, fine. It's these like American Idols, or these, we have here South African Idols, when these people come, to whatever, enroll, or what do you call it, when there's perform, but for the judges, the first round, and the person cannot sing, right? They're actually terrible. They're completely tone deaf, but in themselves they say, I really believe I'm going to be the next Mariah Carey. I'm going to be the next, Whitney Houston. And I'm telling you, and like the judges will say, sorry girl, there's no way, it's not going to happen for you. Be realistic. And they're like, I refuse to believe it. I'll never give up on my dreams. I'm going to make it to Hollywood. I'm going to make it to, Carnegie Hall. I don't know, not Carnegie Hall. I'm just saying nonsense. But things like that, completely unrealistic. But yeah, we because we're a dreamer. They say I'm a dreamer. Well, I'm not the only one. And the dreaming is really bad. Because it's not realistic a lot of the time. A lot of the time we're not dealing with what the world is dealing, is having, is affording us, is giving to us now. Like I speak to some people and, they still want to like go overseas and, well, a family member, my aunt, she wants to also go to Israel and buy a house and, with her husband who, they can't even manage to agree on the date of booking a plane ticket or where to sit on the plane. They can't even get that into place, right? And they can't even, like, my aunt wants to sometimes travel out of Cape Town and go see some things, and she wants to drive, and the husband says, I want to fly. And so they don't even leave. But somehow you think the two of you, right, at the best of times you're not getting along, are going to move to a completely new, different country under the whole new, the world that it is today, at the age that you are at the level of your relationship, and you think that it's whatever it is. And no, we want a house. I mean, like Marlene, she wants to go to Israel, but she wants to live in a kibbutz that's by the beach. It's this idea of having the perfect wedding day. That these are the things that we want to control. I mean, we can't control them, and that's why we're children. We can't control them. But yet we think we can control them, and when they don't come to fruition, we feel victimized, we feel helpless, we feel rejected, we feel, whatever it is, angry at life and reality, but we're not being realistic. We want to eat what we want to eat. We want to drink what we want to drink. We want to live our lives completely by breaking all the rules of nature, right? And we think we still want to be happy. We still want to be content. We still want to have healthy relationships. We want to be as inauthentic as possible. And yet we still want to have a charmed life. We deserve it. You deserve it. The sense of entitlement that we have, And so when some things go wrong in our lives, or we are challenged by certain things, right, we become like, we just give up. We're like, we have very little resistance or pushback to challenges in life. A lot of people, I'm getting a bit of a headache, let me take a pain tablet, or whatever it is. It's like, just deal with it sometimes. I know there's obviously, it's not one size fits all. Yeah, sometimes your headache is so bad you got to take a tablet or whatever it is. Sometimes, but any kind of discomfort that we feel, emotional discomfort, that's the big thing, emotional, like going inwardly. And seeing our emotional discomfort, our rage, our envy, our jealousy, our impatience, our self-loathing, all the unpleasantries, we just don't want to know about it. That's why we design Facebook and social medias and Instagrams, so that we can edit all of those parts of ourselves out and live in this dream fantasy, this make-believe world, where we're all just absolutely gorgeous all the time and never a bad hair day, right? And it's just, or and every meal that we have is just, or almost, that we the ones that we obviously, take pictures of, or whatever it is. It's like, this is how it goes. And so we're not realistic a lot of the time. The chickens have come home to roost in this world. They have come home to roost. And, the sky is falling. But I mean, to a certain degree, I would really think, to a certain degree, and I haven't done a talk on this, which frustrates me. I should get around to doing it. That the CV narrative and what's going on now can only have potentially happened by humanity's agreement to it, to being governed and being controlled, and being lockstepped and goose-stepped in whatever it is. Otherwise, it couldn't have happened. I don't know. Maybe it could have, but not to the degree that it is. I think there is some choice involved. I'd like to think. I don't think it was always just a destiny. It was just a destiny. There was nothing we could do. We just didn't have any free choice about it. I don't know. But my point as well is that, like, we need to do that with one another as well. Like, let's say with my uncle, who is a narcissist. But when I talk to him, let's say we're in business together, I got to talk to him like, hey, Uncle Joe, what's happening? How you doing, my man? Whatever it is. But meanwhile, I just think I hate his guts. I think he's a despicable human being, excuse for a human being, whatever it is. But yet when I speak to him, I can't tell him these things, we can't tell people things, whatever. We can't go up to people and tell them that they're sheeple and, or whatever it is. We can't go tell people, well, oh, you're under a hypnosis and a trance, and you're trauma bonded, and, the matrix is a lie, and you're a lie. And, we can't tell people that, right? You just cannot tell the truth a lot of the time. And it's not that you're lying, but you have to omit the truth, or you're not omit it, but you have to ignore it a lot of the time in order just to get along in this world, right? Because if you spoke your truth all the time, you'd land up in prison, or you'd land up on the streets. You'd be a hermit, or you'd have to go to the mountains or something like that, if you had to reflect to everybody what you really thought of them. And not in a bad way, just like saying, hey, I just think you're grandiose, I feel that you're exaggerating a lot, I feel that you are playing the victim role, I feel that you, whatever it is, just reflect to people what they are about, and so we don't, and so we have to ignore that in one another and pretend that it doesn't exist. And so we get caught up in all these bloody games, in all these games. And we try our best to speak our truth and tell people what we think of them and how we feel about them, and, and yet a lot of the time, 99% of, no 99, maybe 95% of the time, you just got to keep your mouth shut and walk away and have nothing to do with the people. But it's very, very hard. It's very, very hard to do. You have to have some kind of compassion for the sleeping individual, for the unconscious individual, an unconscious person who's playing an act, who's playing a game. Their whole life is invested, their whole fiber of their being, their whole spirit, and whatever is dependent on this character. And dare you come across and say, look, it's a lie, it's inauthentic, right? It's disingenuous, it's a corruption, it's a perversion of what you truly are. Like, heaven forbid you come along and you say that. Heaven forbid. And that's it. People want us to believe in them. It's like, you've had a father who's been an alcoholic most of his life, most of your life, and he's like, no, I'm going to stop drinking. And you know that he just can't. So he stops drinking for 2 days, and he comes and he's with such glee and says, look, I've managed to stop drinking, and it's only 2 days, but you don't want to say to him, well, look, it's only the first 2 days. Just don't get ahead of yourself, because he says, well, you got no belief in me. You got no confidence in me, and that's why I drink in the first place, and I come to you for support, and this is how you treat me. Whatever it is. Okay, Dad, you're doing unbelievably well. You've cured it. Don't worry. You can hang out with your drinking buddies at the bar tonight, like you've organized, and you won't be tempted. And you got to lie. that way. I mean, that's what they want. Not that you got to do it, but that's what they're looking for. You got to be like, yeah, I believe in you. You know, friend, family member screwed you over so many times. You know, let's say borrowed money from you, never returned, never paid you back. Oh, please, this time I really will, and I'll pay what I owe you. You know, type of thing. And you know that they're not going to. They're not. You know they're not able to. But they'll convince you and say like, "How dare you not believe that I'll pay you back? How dare you believe that? I don't know, a flatmate doesn't pay his share of the rent. You pay it for him. He's like, dude, next month I'll pay. I'm telling you, you know, thanks for covering me, you know, and you know the next month he's not even going to pay. He's just lying. And you want to say, look, I know you're lying, you know. Okay, maybe not the best example, but you know what I mean. And especially when people are caught stealing, lying, or whatever it is, deliberately, I'm saying, from you, then they deny it. You catch them red-handed and they deny it. And so that's it. So, you know, we all got to like play the role, play the collective game. You know, in the sense of, well, we're all wearing masks, you know, it's what we're doing, we're all social distancing, we're all doing that, we're all feeling miserable, we're all, you know, waiting for the miracle cure to come. You know, we're all on board and we all got to feel the same way. And you feel like, no, I don't, I refuse. I refuse in many ways to buy into the lie, to buy into the. It's not a lie. It is a lie, but I need to do a talk on that as well. They've kept the numbers deliberately low. They've kept them, yeah. They've deliberately kept the numbers low of the deaths where they could have increased them. You've got to ask yourself, why did they do that? One of the big reasons is because I feel, is to crush the spirit, because everything that you've sacrificed has been in vain. And it's also about betrayal. But I'll get into that in another talk. But heaven forbid, you try and tell people a different narrative, a different perspective on things, you know, and they're not happy about it. And rather than what you're doing is loving, they see it as you become their worst enemy. So a lot of the time, you know, one has to sort of bite their lip, you know, and just go along their way. But my point is, again, being realistic for the times that we're in, with our limitations, with what we're dealing with, being authentic as we possibly can, knowing our boundaries, and trying to, you know, I don't know, be open, be willing to make mistakes, you know, and be willing to move forward. It's not mistakes, you know, a lot of the time. Understand that you don't know everything. You can't know it all in one moment, in the moment that you are in. You have to make some decisions. But you just don't want to repeat them if they don't work out, you know, if they're not beneficial. So yeah, folks, it's so important to be doing right now. So important, you know, to be mature, to be responsible, right? To walk carefully, not neurotic, not you know, I don't know, but to, how would I say, to be present enough and honest enough to be open to make mistakes, but willing to move forward at the same time, if that makes sense. I don't know, folks. All right, we'll chat soon. Take care.